ES heads for all-time highs as Bitcoin struggles to bounce off of 60K. How bulls can prove this bounce is more than just a dead cat bounce, and the levels to keep an eye on. Let's dive in and talk about it. Hey, howdy everyone, Tony here. Hope you're doing well. Today, as always, we're going to check out Bitcoin at the larger time frame, then work our way to the smaller time frame, try and identify patterns we recognize, look for clarity in the markets for directional bias, and look for some potential trade setups. So starting off with Bitcoin here on the weekly, just want to zoom out and look where we are in the charts. Here are some of my major levels that I'm keeping an eye on. And basically what these levels represent is where price action has both played as support and resistance in the past, or vice versa, and looking for a directional bias and what the PA is actually telling us here. As you can see, as in a typical uptrend, we're looking for sharp moves to the upside and corrections to the downside. And so far, nothing has changed as far as this downtrend has gone at the larger degree here. When we dig down to the smaller degree, it's still the same story, except for at the smallest degree. So we're very early into this bounce, and saying this is the bottom and we're heading back up to all-time high, I think is a little premature at the moment, but we'll take a look at it. And if bulls can prove themselves in the next couple of weeks, I think we do have a good chance that this might be a turnaround, if not for an internal retracement to these levels here, for continuation of the downside, a potential to head back up even deeper up to some of these higher levels up here. But don't want to put the jet skis in front of the Ferrari at this point. Again, we want to follow price action here and see what it's telling us, and not just rely on hype and YouTubers. So with that, from here, looking at the price action here on Bitcoin, I think we are at a decent spot to consider. We might see a bounce here. We are getting some divergence here on the momentum oscillators. One thing that I really like to see, I know in this day and age with everything being OTC and ETF flows and everything being done behind the scenes, volume may not be a great indicator to help us identify that people are coming back into the market. But I would like to see some influence in the ETFs at least. And right now, it does look like the outflows are slowing down. So again, another clue to consider in this potential bounce as well. ETF flows are slowing down, and we are getting some buying power on that end. But when it comes to the price action, again, here, bulls are very far from proving that this bounce has any momentum. Again, when we're dealing with larger time frames, it can take a while to produce a move that we can recognize is a change in trend. And we still have a long way to go to see that change at the larger degree. Right now, the largest degree here is at 80.5K. And we'd like to see that taken out as quickly as possible. As you can see in some of these turns and tops here, we get a nice quick move to the downside to prove that the change in direction and the change in delivery, if you will, is happening, and we are getting a move in the opposite direction. So this could be the start of that. When we dive deeper in, we're going to look at some levels that the bulls have to break to prove that they are taking back over, at least at the smaller degrees. So nothing has changed out here on the larger degree. We are at an area and level of interest here. So looking for a bounce isn't the craziest idea. The bulls have to prove themselves at the smaller degree before it can ripple out to the larger degree. So with that, let's go ahead and dive into the smaller time frame. All right, I wanted to go over why we're at such a huge, important level here at 65K. This is the level that the bulls have to beat, in my opinion, to get some real momentum going. And then we have this pivot up here at 67.3 that changes the tide of the trend potentially, where if we get a break of this larger degree lower high, what follows after a break of a lower high is that we need internal rip for continuation to the upside. But this is the first step here as far as changing the trend. But the first level of interest here is at 65K. As you can see back here, it's played as support in the past, and we've gotten some big moves off of it. And this is where we entered the last time. We got to move up to the upside. When it came back down, it broke below, couldn't get to it, and then now we couldn't get back over it the last couple times. So zooming in a little bit closer, we didn't quite get a full retrace on this move to the upside. We did end up getting the 50 to here. But this last one came down to 2 on our level of interest that we were watching since back over here, and found that as support, and we moved to the upside. So get down to the nitty gritty here. What the bulls have to do is basically hold a low at 58K and move up, break 65K, and continue to the upside. Since we didn't get a full retrace down to the 50 or 618, that could be either a bullish or a bearish thing. Bullish because the bears weren't allowed to make a deeper retracement. We've held this level of interest and continued to the upside and broke the next level of interest at 63,171. So far, this bounce is looking pretty good. Right now, I think the ideal, most bullish scenario is that we actually hold 61.5, come back, retrace, and just send it up and break some of these with some violence. Back here, when we were considering a move down and a potential change in delivery, we did get that violent move to the upside, breaking this level at the smallest degree and holding above it and continuing on and breaking the next high. Right now we have pretty much equal highs, so breaking that would cement this as a strong pivot. And this is what we want to see. This move here is what we want to see at the larger degree here. We could just wick up into here and then just fall over because of this level being so heavily contested at 65K. This is what the bulls want to see. We want to see a nice correction or hold up here back to this level of interest at 61.73, and we get a nice swift move up, and that would be the most bullish outcome here. If we start heading back down and flipping this back into resistance, again, the line in the sand for me is at 60.7K. If we end up breaking down beneath that, I think we have some other things that we have to consider and worry about. So wrap this up. Ideally, for the most bullish outcome here, bulls have to hold the one above 715, keeping the corrections to the downside, swift moves to the upside, breaking some of these higher levels of interest, and at minimum, flipping them into support for a continuation of the upward trend at the smaller and rippling to the larger degree trend as well. So hopefully the bulls can pull that off. If we do end up breaking above 65K and flipping in and heading on to the upside, the next major level to keep an eye on is 70K to 75K to see how we move to this upside. If we come nice and strong and we get a nice big rip, then we can start considering that this is a change even at the larger degree, which has to happen. So again, in Elliott Wave and everything in price action, things can typically be fractal. We started here at the smaller degree. We had to move down, swept the low. So we have a new low, broke back above it in a forceful manner, came back down, held above it with a retrace. Now we have to move to this degree of the trend here. In this degree trend, we have to move against it swiftly and violently to the upside to change that trend to the upside. And then we have to do the same thing at the even larger degree. And that's how trends can kind of change from the little spark down here to a raging inferno to the upside, or change of direction, whichever way that may be. But now that we got this move to the upside, we have to continue to watch how this plays out. Again, if we get a nice swift move, we can lean more bullish. If we end up coming all correctively and looking like junk and we don't get any momentum and things start looking corrective, then this is the area I'm looking for a potential larger degree short and continuation to the downside if we even get that high. So that's what I'm keeping an eye on here on Bitcoin. Let's go ahead and look at some of the correlated assets real quick. Basically, what we're looking for is ES to be nice and happy so crypto can keep from crashing and being at least somewhat happier. So far, the correlations have been doing pretty good. Topped out here over on DXY and have been heading down and sideways a little bit, and that has caused ES to go up, which has been rippling to Bitcoin and Ethereum, in my opinion. So the correlations are still intact, and the higher ES goes and keeps going, the more likely BTC won't go crashing down any further. But as soon as ES corrects, I think Bitcoin is gonna feel it's gonna ripple down, depending on which sector kind of takes the lead after the AI stuff kind of simmers down a little bit. But right now, things are looking correlated where DXY is down, the dollar's down, everything else is kind of moving to the upside at the moment. So to start off, we're going to take a look at ETH. So this is what I'm essentially looking at here for Ethereum. Potential for one more move to the upside to complete a wave 5 here at this impulse. We are getting some divergence, meaning that we have a swift move here in the wave 3. And if we get a higher high in the price action and get a lower low on the momentum indicators, there's a potential that it could be a directional change or change in direction to the downside for a potential corrective on the bullish side, if not a continuation to the downside and the sweep of these lows at the bearish side. Because of the price action to the left of here, I think it would be a good idea to consider that we have a potential flat here, and this move is more of a finishing a corrective move, which will cause us to move to the downside and break these lows at a minimum. Again, if there's a truncation, but those are pretty rare in Elliott Wave. So because of the three-wave move up, three-wave move down, and this has a completing impulse, I think there is a chance that we could sweep down to lower low. I don't know which way for sure. I can't tell the future, but I do know that when we do see a completed impulse and it is truly completed, there is a chance for a directional change to the downside. So I'm going to be taking advantage of the C3 setup. I have all this posted on my X account and I have a video on it in my YouTube, so definitely go check that out. But I'm looking for a C3 setup. This way, it doesn't really matter if I think this is coming internal or if I think it's going to sweep the lows. I'm going to look for that primary impulsive move to the downside, corrective move to the upside, and an entry for a short. Play either direction, taking profit at appropriate locations to benefit from that trade, no matter which it is, since that would point to the directional bias being to the downside at some degree. That's why I'm keeping an eye out on ETH. One more little squirt up and a move down. If it's truly bullish, again, none of this has to happen. If we end up breaking above this level at 1900, flipping it into support, we could get continuation to the upside, and then we have to take a look at some of these higher levels. But for now, it's all going to be on how we complete here. I think this is a clean looking pattern that we can try and play off of. That's what I'm watching for on ETH. Let's move back to some of the other assets. So looking at the dollar here last week, we're looking for a potential move up in a wave 5 that hasn't produced yet. And we got another 3-wave move to the upside here. We still are teetering on and testing this level at 100.52, which cements it as a level of interest for sure, especially if we end up breaking down beneath it. I'll be watching for that to play as resistance. And then if we get continuation to the downside from there, that would assist in all the other assets and be a tailwind for the other assets to move to the upside. That's what I'm watching. Again, we could just be putting in this broadening wedge, and then we're heading back down to the other side of this wedge. If we end up moving to the upside and this level holds, next level to keep an eye on is 101.88, and a move to the upside would be a headwind and may cause the other assets to move to the downside. Right now, looking for a sweep of the higher high at the minimum. I think we do have a decent looking impulsive move to the upside here, and at least we have a swift move that corrects back into our area of interest, depending on where you want to end this. Could be a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then we get a flat, and we're getting a move to the upside in the swift fashion, which would definitely lead me towards we're at least going to go test these all-time highs, if not rip above it. If we do end up ripping above it, I'd be looking for this level to play as support on the opposite side if we ever come back to it, since it has played as resistance in the past here all these times. Looking at our larger count here, I can definitely say we've been going sideways, and I think our impulse ended over here somewhere, and we have a potential for this to be the corrective sideways move. A break above this box could lead to a pretty strong breakout move to the upside. If we get some distance up, then I'll be watching for this level to play as support and continuation to the upside. So for next week, what I'm looking for here on Bitcoin and ETH is the same thing. Here are the 3 paths that I'm watching for. On Bitcoin first, if we're going to remain super bullish, we're just going to get this blast up, and that's going to be at the end of it. We're going to cut out these lower pivots, which calls the larger trend into question, and look for a potential for 65 to turn back into support before we get another move up. So I'm looking to play this level here. If we break above that, put a stop loss down here or even back here, depending on how high I want to go with the degree. If we only get a little wick up into the futures open and we sweep these local highs here, maybe even this one here, and sweep back beneath it, I'll be watching for 65 to play as resistance again, and we get a potential for ideally an internal retrace to the 71.5 area before we get a move up and out, and eventually we break 65 and flip that into support. On the bearish side, again, we're going to probably pop up and sweep 65 at a minimum here, maybe one of these pivots up here as well, and then fall back underneath it, unable to break 65, and then we start breaking down these pivots. And I think 60.644 here is the line in the sand. If we start breaking beneath there, something else is going on, and we're heading for further lows with the potential of breaking 58 for further downside. So that's what I'm watching for directly on Bitcoin, and I'll play those levels as they play. ETH is a lot cleaner here. I think it's a much better pattern as far as looks goes. Caveat for this is ETH right now has been pretty weak, and as always, it's been a follower. Maybe it's beat down so much that it's time to shine, and alt season is right around the corner. If that's, I'm looking for a break up swiftly as possible. Minimum, we break this high, turn it into support, and continue on for further bullish upside. Ideally, as far as looks go, an ideal play out, I want to see this just wick above here, come into our most likely targets for a wave 5 and the wave C for this flat. So basically, we have some equal lows here. We'll break the equal highs here, come back down and sweep these lows is the bearish interpretation. Bullish interpretation is we have an impulse move. We got the end here. This is not a wave B. This is the end of the move down. This is the start of a new trend to the upside. And we're going to get an internal retracement to this impulsive range before we get continuation to the upside. The way we can benefit in either way, looking for a break up, complete the impulse down, get a move down, potentially breaking this wave 4 of the wave 5 at the lesser degree, get a correction internal to here, find resistance at this level at the 1850 area, in this area, reject, and we head lower, breaking these pivots, utilizing the C3 setup that you can find on my X page to take advantage of this. Get in for either the wave C or the wave 3. So those are the two setups I'm looking for as of now, but as always, I just roll with the waves as they print. If you have any questions or concerns, please leave a comment down below. I read them all. If you want to learn more about technical analysis and you like the way I do things here, please consider a thumbs up and a subscribe. Check out some of my other videos as well to learn more about how I like to trade Elliott Wave. And finally, come check me out on TradeDevils.com, which is where I primarily learned all of my technical analysis and take advantage of the belt system. So you can learn technical analysis during this bear market to take advantage of the next bull run. That's all I got for this weekend. Trade safe, trade clarity. Take it easy. Later.